32 lives were lost, hundreds suffered from unimaginable trauma, and the cruising industry was forever changed. This is the story of the Costa Concordia, the Italian cruise ship that suffered from a terrible fate. It has been over a decade since the vessel struck a rock and capsized off the Tuscan island of Giglio. But the reason behind this ship sinking continues to captivate people. The story begins with Carnival Corporation, a leisure travel company based in Miami, Florida. Carnival Corporation operates through various subsidiaries, including Princess Cruises, Holland America Line, and Costa Cruises, among others. Costa Cruises, in particular, became an iconic name in the Italian cruise industry. The company emphasized luxury and hospitality. In 2004, Costa Cruises laid the foundation for another milestone with the construction of Costa Concordia. Fincantieri, a world-renowned Italian shipbuilding company, was commissioned for the task. The construction commenced on January 19, 2004, with a decided cost of $570 million. More than 2 years later, in June 2006, the vessel was delivered to Costa, and it was a sight to behold. As the ship was unveiled, people couldn't help but compare it to Titanic's design, length, and luxuries. No one knew Costa Concordia would meet a similar fate as Titanic. Think about the magnificence of Titanic. Its luxurious cabins, balconies, and decks. Now take it one step further, and you have Costa Concordia. The vessel was 951 feet long and 116 feet wide. With a gross tonnage of 114,137, the ship had the capacity to hold 3,700 passengers and 1,100 crew members. Adorned with polished marble, an atrium ceiling, and lavish decorations, the vessel's interior was a testament to elegance. The ship had 17 decks, 1,500 cabins, and 505 private balconies. The number of amenities on the vessel will leave you astonished. The ship had 4 swimming pools, 5 jacuzzis, a 3-story theater, a glitzy casino, and 5 spas, among other luxuries. It also had 5 restaurants with thousands of food options and a staggering 13 bars. And if that is not enough, the Costa Concordia also had the record of the largest spa ever built on a cruise ship known as the Samsara Spa. It was a 2-level, 64,000 square feet fitness facility with multiple services such as a sauna, a Turkish bath, and a thalassotherapy pool. The ship also featured live performances from musicians and other entertainment programs. The Costa Concordia was a floating paradise, with glass elevators taking vacationers from one floor to another. The vessel undertook its maiden journey in July 2006. It was a 7-day cruise along the Mediterranean Sea with stops in Italy, Spain, and France. This route then became Costa Concordia's usual route, and the cruise ship took several journeys in the following years. 6 years after the ship's first voyage, something unimaginable happened. The ship that was once a floating paradise transformed into a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the cost of human error. On January 13, 2012, the Costa Concordia set sail for another 7-day Mediterranean cruise destined for Savona, Italy. It departed from Civitavecchia, an Italian port near Rome, and had scheduled stops at various ports. There were 1,023 crew members and 3,206 passengers on board. As hours passed and the evening descended, the ship followed the standard route. Nothing out of the ordinary threatened its voyage, but only for a short time. The Concordia deviated from its course as it approached Giglio Island. The ship started moving dangerously close to the Tuscan island. As the ship moved closer to the island, the crew noticed rock formations in the ship's path. The Costa Concordia's captain, Francesco Schettino, gave orders to steer the ship 20 degrees away. Due to the language barrier, the Indonesian helmsman steered the boat in the opposite direction. As panic ensued, the crew took 13 seconds to correct the ship's course, but it was too late. At 9:45 p.m., disaster struck. The ship had collided with a rock formation, leaving a 174-foot gash along its starboard side. Crew members and passengers were jolted awake, and the ship lost power. Before we discuss the chaotic evacuation and the salvage operation, one obvious question needs to be addressed. Why was Costa Concordia sailing so close to Giglio Island? According to the reports, the ship had moved close to the Tuscan island to perform a near-shore salute, also known as a sail-by salute. For those who don't know, a sail-by salute is bringing the ship close to the shore to salute those on land. It is a naval tradition dating back to the ancient times. It is usually performed to salute a crew member's family. However, in Concordia's case, the captain wanted to give the passengers a closer look at the island. The approval of this sailby salute was investigated after the disaster, and the details are even more confusing. We'll get into those in a while, so stay tuned. Back at the vessel, crew members assessed the damage and reassured passengers. 5 compartments had already been filled with water, escalating the situation. However, Captain Schettino decided to downplay the situation. Announcements were made to ensure the passengers that the ship had a blackout and the situation was under control. At this point, Captain Schettino had still not reported the incident to the Coast Guard. A panic-stricken passenger on board contacted rescue officials around 10 p.m. At 10:14 p.m., the Italian Coast Guard reached out to the captain, but he claimed that the vessel had experienced a blackout. 10 minutes later, the Coast Guard contacted the ship again. Captain Schettino requested tugboats this time, still downplaying the damage and risking thousands of lives. Around 10:39 p.m., the first rescue vessel arrived and thus began one of the most chaotic rescue operations in the history of marine cruising. Emergency alarms were raised and the passengers were instructed to abandon the ship. However, according to the incident report, some passengers testified that they didn't hear the emergency alarms to move towards the lifeboats. Moreover, the evacuation was hampered by the drastic titling of the vessel. The wind had caused Concordia to turn back toward the island, so the ship had fallen to the starboard side. This hindered the deployment of lifeboats, and movement within the vessel became difficult. By 10:48 p.m., the ship had tilted by more than 30 degrees. Minutes later, at 11:20 p.m., the captain of Costa Concordia, Francesco Schettino, abandoned his ship, leaving the second master to oversee the evacuation. A few minutes later, the second master also left the vessel with more than 300 people still stuck on the sinking ship. By 12 a.m., the ship had listed to such a dangerous level that it was impossible to launch lifeboats from the port side. Therefore, passengers used ladders to board the lifeboats of the Coast Guard. Meanwhile, a Coast Guard captain contacted Schettino and ordered him to return to the vessel. This recorded conversation exposed Schettino's lack of leadership skills and his selfishness. He was asked repeatedly to return to his ship and report how many people needed assistance. Each time, Captain Schettino refused. The rescue operation went on for several hours. Patrol boats and helicopters evacuated 4,194 people from the Concordia till morning. They were temporarily taken to Giglio Island. On January 14, 6:17 a.m., rescue operations were temporarily suspended. By morning, the ship had listed up to 80 degrees, and daylight revealed the damage the ship had endured. The accident caused 32 fatalities, and the last body was recovered on November 3, 2014. The 21st century embodiment of the cruising industry had sunk, and questions were raised. Even the most surface analysis of the catastrophe indicated that the poor crisis management of the ship's captain and crew affected the course of the tragedy. Schettino's decision to perform a sail-by salute was probed as investigations began. According to Costa Cruises' chief executive Pierluigi Foschi, the owners weren't aware that the ship would be moving so close. There were also rumors that Schettino wanted to perform the sail-by to impress his lover, Dominica Simorton, who was with him on board. The company called the ship's deviation unapproved and unsupervised. The next question was, why did the captain abandon his own ship? Schettino claimed he had accidentally fallen into a lifeboat as the ship tilted. Unsurprisingly, his argument didn't hold up in court. If he had accidentally fallen into the lifeboat, why did he refuse to get back on board when ordered by the Coast Guard? Moreover, authorities questioned Schettino's delay in contacting the rescue officials. In light of these speculations, Schettino, along with other crew members, was arrested for manslaughter. In July 2013, 5 crew members pled guilty and were jailed for up to 2 years and 10 months. Schettino, on the other hand, went on trial for multiple manslaughter charges. During the 19-month trial, prosecutors claimed that Schettino was a careless idiot who had consciously made terrible decisions. Schettino's defense, on the other hand, argued that he was being used as a scapegoat to cover the actions of an organization. 3 years later, in February 2015, the court found Schettino guilty of several charges, including manslaughter, causing a shipwreck, lying about the disaster, and abandoning his ship before passengers and crew were evacuated. He was sentenced to 16 years of prison, which he is currently serving. While the legal proceedings unfolded against Schettino and whoever was responsible, a historical salvage operation was launched to recover Costa Concordia. The foremost concern of Costa Cruises was a potential oil spill, as the vessel was on the edge of an underwater cliff. Before salvage work could begin, Smith International was contracted to extract the ship's oil, which exceeded 2,300 tons. The process took several months. In September 2013, Costa Concordia was brought to a vertical position through parbuckling. Using gigantic steel cables, pulleys, and counterweights, enough force was applied to rotate the ship into an upright position. After 19 hours of labor, the decaying submerged portion of the ship was brought to light. Immediately after, efforts to refloat and tow the mighty ship began. Water was released from the ship's tanks, and compressed air was filled inside. On July 14, 2014, Costa Concordia was refloated and prepared for its final journey towards Genoa. On July 27th, the ship arrived in Genoa's dock after a 4-day journey. From there on, it was scrapped and dismantled. As the interiors of the ship were dismantled, a haunting image appeared. The grand halls and luxurious cabins were decaying. Water damage and corrosion had ruined the architecture so meticulously built. On July 7, 2017, the scrapping of the ship was completed. Now the question arises, what was the financial toll suffered by Costa Cruises and Carnival Cooperation? After the legal compensations and salvage operation, the estimated final cost was $2 billion. This doesn't include the $570 million spent on the ship's construction. Carnival Cooperation released a statement soon after the incident, offering deep condolences to all the affected families and a promise of assistance to the guests and crew. They extended their gratitude to the Italian Coast Guard and local communities who provided support in dire times. The Costa Concordia catastrophe is a reminder that even the most modern vessels could be dismantled because of human error and negligence. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.